Travel Squad. Sorry, had to say it. I'm sitting down again with my friends Tanya and Karla. Did you miss them, everybody?
We're back.
Hello, we're back.
There you go. Just so we get used to the voices again, Tanya, say a quick hello.
Hello.
Oh,
People in we can't see.
I was going to say be very grateful because she's actually waving and it looks kind of weird. But just kidding.
I'm saying hello.
Hello. And Karla?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. I'm back.
Yes, there you go.
Or Marga's back.
Marga's
actually,
back.
we should
We're all
say.
back. We're all back together again for another moment of revelry and food and drinks. But we're going to talk to you about something that all three of us, I think, have done at some point in our lives or enjoy doing, and seems to be a growing fad now with certain people, which is traveling by yourself. And I know, Karla, this is something that you have always looked forward to doing.
Always do it. Every year since I've been able to take a vacation, which is not in the past, never. So when I finally was able to take a vacation, I always made a point to travel by myself before I met my family or my friends to travel. And then I go do it again before I go home.
How come?
So
What was
before
your-
and after.
What was your reason for wanting to do that?
Before I meet my friends or my family, the doing before is so that I can decompress from my work. I think that's the reason.
How many days do you take?
Usually 5. So 5 before,
Right.
and then 5 after.
And where would you go, like at moments like that?
So say, for example, because every year that I was able to travel, since I was able to travel, I've been going to Europe. So first I would go, say, for example, we would meet say the destination with my family would be Italy,
And you would be living where at this point?
in Singapore.
And
So
your family was elsewhere?
yes. Usually we would meet, my mom, my sister, and I would meet for 3 weeks, a 3-week vacation. We would go halfway because we all live in different countries. Halfway is Europe. So we would all meet in Europe at a certain point. But before we met, I would always travel by myself. Like 5 days before, I would already go and be by myself. And almost always, now that I think about it, it's Paris.
Oh.
I don't know why. I don't know why it became that. I did it the first year, and then I kind of did it every year.
So you ended up picking Paris?
And
Every
year,
time?
every time
For the before?
For the before.
So-
and after, because
Right.
I would fly Paris.
So it's your decompression zone.
Yeah.
But what would you do when you were in Paris? Was it museums? Was it
It's
just
not a bad
eat?
city to be
Oh, no,
by
not at
yourself,
all.
actually.
But
It's actually
for,
a really good
for
city.
many people, Paris means different things to many
Yeah.
people, you know? And for you, what was it that you liked?
Well, I went to eat, basically.
okay.
So I would go for food shopping for the trip that was going to be with my sister and my mom. And then I would go food shopping again for when I would go home. So I'd bring home butter and candy and, and
Cheese.
kitchen equipment, stuff like that I would not find in Singapore coming back.
Which kitchen supply shop would you go to?
I forget the
both?
name of it, but there's this one kitchen supply on Rue Tivoli. Yeah, Tivoli. And it's all kitchen. It's like cheap kitchen supply, but nice looking kitchen supply. And it's, how do you say it? The overruns of kitchen supply.
Right.
So like, those like really fancy knives.
Right.
They would sell them for €2 each.
What?
When it's like,
Wow.
a set of it is like usually like €300 for
Oh my
6.
gosh.
I would buy €2 a piece.
Yeah, but there's a big
There's
fancy
fancy.
one.
Oh, yeah,
It's a kitchen supply that has like all the copper pots. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
remember the name. So you're not going there. You're
No.
going to like the secret one that
Yeah.
all the restaurant people know.
Yes, so for
Actually,
those of
yeah.
you just
Yeah.
listening in now, firstly, you got to go back to the first episode. But before you do that, just to let you know, Karla is a chef, which is why she is like the expert on all things kitchen and cooking and food.
Exactly.
Yes.
There you go.
So mainly I would go the first year I went to Paris just because I had never been. And then I was like, oh, this is a great place for me to like start my trip off because it's always been like, like everybody wants to go to Paris. And so that's what I would do. I'd go to Paris and then I would go off to meet my family wherever or friends. And then I would break off again before going home. 4 days, 5 days again before going back home. And it's almost always Paris.
What would the difference be for you of, let's say like that, doing that kind of trip on your own as opposed to if you had been with somebody else?
Because if I actually did it 1 year, there was 1 year, save 1 year that I did it with someone else, and it turned out to be really great also. But it wasn't much different because she basically said, "Let's do whatever you want to do." So I just went on as if she wasn't there, and it really felt like as if she wasn't there. So it was great. But and she felt the same way. She's like, "It's great we're together, but it doesn't. We didn't crap each other's style. Like we didn't." She didn't mind that I wanted to go to this place, or I didn't mind that she wanted to go to that place. So it always melded. And then if there were certain times that we wanted to split up, we split up. And then I'll meet you, fine, no big deal. And mainly because I think she was a single mom. So to her alone time also meant something, she was looking forward to her alone time. But then had the option to meet me at the end of the day. So she's not alone.
So you
alone.
guys would do your own thing
Yeah.
and then
And
come
then
out
we would
together.
meet.
That's
Yeah.
nice.
And we stayed in the same hotel.
No pressure.
No pressure. And we would have meals together. But like, say she wanted to go to the Louvre.
Yeah.
And I had already been to the Louvre, and I actually don't like the Louvre. But so I went off to do my own thing, and then we met after, and then we had drinks and then dinner, and then we did our own thing, which is great. So it worked out that way.
That is nice. You have the option to kind of meet up with people.
I had the option.
Have you done that kind of trip?
I've
Tanya?
not intentionally gone on a solo trip, actually, but I have traveled. I feel like I solo travel in transit, or if the scheduling doesn't work out or works out to the point where people will come a few days after me. So then that gives me, then these few days I'm on my own. So then it's like I'm traveling solo, but I didn't intend for that to happen. Mm-hmm. Or like one time I was traveling with my mom. She was doing a children's museum conference in Lisbon.
Right.
And so while she's at the conference, like I could go do my thing. So basically, for 2 days I walked all over Lisbon by myself. And because I like to take pictures, it was with a camera, you feel like you have a bit of a shield, like an invisibility cloak. Mm-hmm. So, you can, it's great because it's like you can just find these moments, take these moments. And this was before digital cameras. Mm. So you also had to pick like which ones you wanted to take. But that also gives you think about the city and you kind of not analyze it, but you're looking at it closer because you're looking, okay, what pictures do I want to take? At the same time, you're looking at the city closer than if you were just on a tour going around. Mm-hmm. And because you're by yourself,
So you really did explore on your own.
Yes, exactly. So I went all the way like up to the Barrio Alto and walked all the way down to the water, and you can walk it in a day really. So the second time was just like, oh, I've been here already.
Right. What did it give you to do that on your own, you feel?
I think what it gave me was just maybe because Lisbon is such a quaint little city, so it was a good space to do that. The confidence to be able to handle traveling, just being by myself and walking around. I know, although maybe the next level is that like Karla and you, who intentionally book a trip to travel on your own.
Yeah.
But I haven't really. For me, it's fun when there are people, but because like you with your friend traveling, there are also friends who I know I can go with, and we're like, there's no stress of like, okay, we have to do this, or we have to, we're all at the same pace, and if we want to do separate things, we can, and then come back.
Yeah.
So that's but that's only happened fairly recently, so that's kind of nice as well. And of course, family trips are a whole different matter.
No. Do you find yourself preferring to travel alone now, or? Yes.
Karla,
Yes. Actually, now that I'm getting older, and I think I realize I'm introvert, extrovert.
Right. Me too.
So I think all of us.
Yeah.
No? Yeah.
There's so many things I wish I'd known that I was introvert, extrovert when I was younger.
This year it cemented it. I think now I really know I'm introvert, extrovert.
Okay, let's explain introvert, extrovert for those who don't follow all these.
My understanding of it, I'm not. That's that when I'm in a part of a group, I'm very much part of the group. Like I could even be the life of the group. But I also would rather just be by myself. When I'm alone, I love being alone.
Perfectly happy.
Yeah, perfectly happy. No, and sometimes even kind of prefer being alone. But I don't mind being part of a group. And I do well in a group, but also do just as well.
You can play with others, but you can also.
Yeah.
Do you find you need, because for me, it's recovery time.
Yes. Like
Yes.
that. Recovery time.
You just want to retreat after when it's too much.
Yes.
And then you just like, okay.
Yes.
But then people don't think you're an introvert because you have the traits where you can socialize, you can even be outgoing.
Yeah.
And they're like, how are you
Right.
an introvert? I was like, I didn't even realize.
Yes.
It came up recently.
It costs a lot sometimes.
It's true.
Like, when you're with
Yeah.
so many, like for my job, when I was working in news. Wow, it's so weird to say that in past tense. When I was working in
How does it feel?
weird, right?
Okay.
When I was working in news, and all you did every day was talk to people, and you had to get involved because you had to understand their situation to be able to retell their story.
Right.
So there was no being detached. Because at some point you had to be channeling what they were feeling. So the pain, the joy, the anger, the whatever it was. But
So
there
you
was
have to be
always
empathetic.
Yes, which you don't realize how much it takes as well. Because how can you not empathize with somebody you're speaking to as a person face to face?
And that must
You
be so
look into their
draining.
eyes, and but you don't realize it when you're there because you're working on adrenaline, or you're working on. You get some strength somewhere to go and do this, right? But every time I did get a break, that is why I always felt the need to also go somewhere completely
I agree.
far away
That makes a lot of sense.
from where I was working,
Right.
and then just like disconnect.
No wonder. I would too.
Yeah.
Like when I was working in Europe, I would go to the States. That's
Right.
when I visited you guys when you
Right.
were living in LA.
Yeah.
Because it was so far. I remember
Oh my
I was
gosh.
living in London at that time, and I went to visit Tanya.
We weren't roommates yet. You were still in New
Yeah,
York.
Tanya was still living by herself
In my
then.
little like studio Melrose
And I
Place
remember I kept saying
apartment.
to Tanya, let's go to Universal City. Let's go to
gosh.
Disneyland. And she kept saying, why do you want to go there? It's so manufactured.
Yeah.
You live in Europe. Like, really? And I'm like, that's exactly why I want to go
Because,
there.
yeah.
Because it's so fake. It's
Yeah.
manufactured and
Yeah.
it's so far removed
Yeah.
from anything that I have to deal with every day.
You have real castles in Europe. Why are we going to Universal City Walk?
Castle.
Which is
She's
also
like, I
why
love it.
I like musicals.
Musicals are good.
No, but I like to go somewhere different. And that was already a bonus because I was there, I was visiting you, so
Right.
I was dealing with somebody. But there were many times where I would just pick a place, rent a car, and drive
Yes.
with
Oh,
no
I-
plan. It's like, I just know I'm going to end up north in this place. and
we
then,
know.
let's just keep driving and, I'll stop here for the night,
And play the Taylor Swift CD like a million
excuse
times.
me,
Carrie Underwood.
Oh, sorry. Wasn't it Taylor Swift?
There
no,
was-
she wasn't
yeah.
even out yet.
She was, yes, I think Taylor Swift was 6 at the time and wasn't recording yet. But,
Her
but
career
yes.
hadn't taken off yet.
Yeah.
Sorry, I inadvertently made it
CDs
like
were a
more
new
recent.
thing. But yeah, no, it was to get that space, and there were days where I didn't talk to anyone.
Yeah.
Unless I was sitting in a restaurant
Yeah.
and ordering coffee,
Right.
But I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense to me. Now, I didn't really put that together. It's because, it's also your job
Yeah,
because you're surrounded by
actually-
people all the
Yeah,
time.
same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Because I'm surrounded by 117 voices that come at me sometimes all at the same time.
Right.
All I want is peace and quiet.
Yeah.
Right.
And someone who I will not scream at, or someone who will not ask me the same question again and again. So that's also why I kind of like need the time off before I join another group.
Right.
So I kind of have to find the energy to kind of go off to the next rather than just jump from like one big group to the next group. So big group, then me, then smaller group, then me again, and then big group again. So it kind of made sense to me. But now that I think about it, I would only probably do that in places that I know is built for that. Like say I would
Yeah.
I wouldn't probably go to like I don't know. I wouldn't probably go to
The beach by yourself? Or
Although
would you
I
do it?
did. I did.
Because that I've done.
Yeah, I did that. I wouldn't probably go to like say a party place, like party town. Maybe
Like Ibiza.
Yeah, I
Or
probably
Vegas.
wouldn't. Or Vegas. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
It's
Okay.
because that feels weird.
yeah. I probably wouldn't do that because it's just then it would just make me probably feel worse. That I should have been with a bigger
People.
group, or like I should have gone here with someone else, or those things. But I would never think of it as I would never think of that destination. I would always just probably go to a destination that I know I could be by myself
Right.
and be okay and safe. So
yeah, and you also want, because when you're by yourself, it's not that you don't want stimulation. Like you want to like look at different things, find a fresh perspective. So it's not like you want to be bored unless you just want to unplug.
Yeah, no, but see, also whenever I go to these places, I always find places to eat because that's what I like to do.
Right.
And then when I eat at those places, I make sure I sit at like a communal table or like at the bar or some place that I can interact with the staff with, so that I'm not alone when I eat. I like eating alone, but I don't feel bad. I don't feel lonely. There you go. Yeah.
Right.
Alone is okay, but not lonely.
Yeah, because particularly in Europe, they actually have seating for single diners.
Yeah.
And it's a prepared thing. And you might all sit in one corner of the restaurant. And inevitably, at some point, if you look like you want to be spoken to, they will speak to you.
Yeah.
And if you don't, and you make it clear you don't want to, they will leave you alone.
Yeah. In the US, I have no qualms about like
neither
sitting
do
by
I.
myself and
In
eating,
New York,
going to
that's all I did.
watch a movie by myself. I feel like that's my alone time. So I don't need as much, in traveling.
How do you pick destinations to travel to if you're by yourself?
Has to be safe. Safety
I was
is
going
like
to say,
a
but
concern.
nowadays it's very difficult to decide.
Safety
what-
in the sense that I know I'm not going to be abducted.
Okay.
Or anywhere in the world right now.
Yeah, no, but like,
Well, like,
or that's everywhere.
Yeah.
Pickpocketing, that's, France is like.
but you lived in New York. I mean, that's as big a city as you can get.
Yeah, I got
so,
mugged in New York, so that's fine.
Oh, okay.
So that's fine.
Yeah, so it's like, I know how to work that.
Been there, done that.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, I just, how do I pick?
Cosmopolitan.
Yeah,
place,
cosmopolitan
right.
enough. Good food for me.
Yeah.
The food really drives you. It's like you pick the food.
Food and what I can take home from there. Literally
Like
bring
what you can
home.
shop for.
Yeah. Like, what can I shop for?
Yeah.
That's a big, big, big thing for me, especially food wise. Like things wise, doesn't really matter where.
How about a place you haven't been to that you think you want to travel to alone? Because I'm thinking about that.
Oh,
Because if I get to your level, you, Marga and Carla, where I will actually
alone.
plan a trip and go by myself, my family will be like, why do you want to do that?
Yeah.
I went
I
to
will-
Japan alone.
That sounds cool.
Yeah,
Ooh.
alone.
And that's difficult because can you speak the language?
No.
Wow.
15 days by myself.
Wow.
Oh, I didn't realize it was
Why
15
did you want to
days.
go to Japan? Why Japan?
I had never been, 1.
Okay.
2, food was going to be good.
Yeah.
And 3, at that point, it's like everybody was going to Japan. So I'm just like, fear of missing out. But at the same time, I was just like, it's an expensive place. I probably can't afford it if I had to travel with other people. In meaning like,
You would make cheaper choices by yourself.
I could go cheap or expensive or, like
Budget
without,
for yourself.
Yeah, budget for myself. And it turns out that when I go with a group, I always kind of want to take care of a meal, like with the group.
Right.
That makes it expensive.
So that makes it expensive. So I said, if I'm going to go to some place that is slightly expensive, then I can probably only go by myself.
Right.
But Japan, I went by myself mainly because I just really wanted to experience it for myself by myself.
That makes sense. I think I would do Japan as a destination
Yeah.
for solo travel. That would be cool.
Yeah.
My mom just came back from there and they basically, like, 2 of the people in their group, like, one left her wallet and the other one, like, her credit card
And
fell
it was
out.
still there, right?
No, and
Yeah.
they returned. They
Yes.
called and
Yeah.
they returned. So safety.
That's
pretty good.
See, that's probably weird because, like, for me, I worked in Japan quite a bit. So,
and when in particular.
yeah, I was there for several earthquakes, that kind of thing.
So,
And
yeah.
it's a lovely place, but it's not some place
not-
that would be my first choice for a holiday.
Well, because you work.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah,
that's,
because
that's
of
the
the
weird thing because I realized
Yeah.
like, everybody's like, oh, going to Korea. And I'm like, oh, I've also been there quite a bit for work. And
Yeah.
so
I want to go to Korea, actually.
Yeah.
great place. I mean, I always really enjoy going to Korea. But again, it's one of those places where like if you're on holiday, you don't think to go there. Like it's funny, like now that I'm no longer working in that kind
You
of
wanna
a
go.
job.
Do you want to go there?
No. But what
Oh.
I'm saying is my choices seem to be limited as well because before I didn't used to have to think about it because in a year I travel to so many different places that you don't even realize it.
Right.
And then now you're like, oh, if I actually want to go somewhere, I have to make the conscious decision to go there.
Right.
Whereas before it's like get a phone call, this has happened in Cambodia, go.
So what would be on your list for solo travel?
The thing is, I guess because I was at, the last few years have been spent working in Asia, my choices were always it had become Europe. It was always Europe or the US. The US mainly because it was a very easy place to drive.
Right.
I would rent a car and just drive up the coast or drive across state lines and just, it's a nice place to drive because there was just so much space, and it was like meditation on the road.
Right.
And it was weird because at one point, one of my cousins asked me, why do you do this? Like, who chooses to get in a car and just drive, And then
Marga
I realized,
does.
yeah, but it was because when we were younger, my father always used to do that.
Oh.
Like,
would you do family road trips?
yes.
Oh, nice.
He had this thing of we did road trips across the west coast of the US, across the east coast of the US. He took us through road trips of Spain.
That's cool.
And I realized he really enjoyed the drive, and he made sure we enjoyed the drive with him.
Yeah.
Even if at that point when you're a teenager, you're like, why am I stuck in the back seat with my siblings? This is really cramped, And he's pointing everything out. But the funny thing is I realized that now that's what I like to do. And it's exactly what he did.
Torture people in the backseat.
Yeah. And it was funny because I remember the first time I did a drive like that was a year after he had died. And purely by act, I didn't plan it with any kind of thoughtfulness, but I just thought, okay, I'm going to do the Pacific Coast Highway. And I realized because that was the very first drive I ever did with my father. I was 8 years old. We did that drive.
So what spots there reminded you of your
Everything.
dad? Really? The whole
Everything.
thing?
From San Diego up to San Francisco and everywhere in between.
Wow.
Solvang, Carmel. I stopped at all the places that I remembered because of him.
Right.
And it gave me a different kind of peace because it also felt like I was there with him.
That's nice.
Yeah. See, that's probably another.
And I realized that had a lot to do with me then wanting to do the drives.
Right. Yeah.
And do all of
That's
these
a
things on my own
motivation.
because you can hear yourself think.
Yeah.
And it was a way of reconnecting with yourself, which is why for me, I always suggest to people, if you get the chance to do anything on your own, I think you should.
Yeah.
Because I find many people are afraid to do that or don't even want to do that. But I really think it's something each person has to do it.
I think so.
Even for me, not
Once.
so much driving because then I have to focus too much on doing something. But like the train, because the plane, you're always on the plane. There's always like the set of like how comfortably you travel on a plane, but generally on a train. And I've done it where I've had to meet people in certain places and I've had to take long train rides by myself to like meet up with them.
Yeah.
There's something nice about seeing the countryside kind of go by and, like whether it's from, because I've done the Channel one, Paris to London and London to Paris. And that's always nice. And the fact that you're going underwater and coming out like the other side to, another country is fun. Or what's the other one I did? I'm trying to remember. That was also nice.
Like in the States,
I'll come back to it.
Okay.
I went to Atlanta by myself.
Oh.
Like
Train? Drive?
random. I was like, no, seriously. I went like with my finger, and then I went kaboom, and then it ended up in Atlanta. So I did go to Atlanta by myself.
Wow. How was that?
Weird.
Weird.
Why?
Totally weird, because I'm just like, oh my God. It had been my first time below the Mason-Dixon line.
Oh, really?
So, but first time in the South. So I was just like, what's going on here?
But Atlanta's pretty cosmopolitan.
But
CNN headquarters is there, and the Coca-Cola, right?
So I went to CNN, I went to Coke.
And they have a
like
good art
those
scene
places.
in Atlanta too.
Yeah.
But back in the day, back then, going
Is this
around,
when Taylor Swift was 6 years old also?
No, she was not born.
Booking.
Because this was just 1990, just a few years after the Olympics.
Wasn't that 1988? No.
Some 1992.
1992.
okay.
So
Yeah,
LA.
So I
yes.
went 1996, 7, maybe.
Okay.
She might have been born already.
Maybe.
But she just wasn't.
Yeah, she wasn't
Taylor Swift.
Taylor. Yeah.
Okay.
So I went and I was just like, what am I doing here? And Atlanta is not it's not an easy city to navigate.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's because it's a sprawl. So I had to take I had to rent a car, and then I was just like trying to figure no GPSs back then. You had to rely on like a map.
Oh, yes.
And then I had to get to a restaurant. And, like when I got to the restaurant, I knew someone. But getting to the restaurant, I almost gave up because I almost got lost. Or so lost.
Right.
So like that was not a good, how do you say it? Experience. And I said to myself, never again will I go to the South by myself.
Yourself.
So never again did that happen. But other than that, I had no bad experiences with like choosing places.
I remember where I was going.
Go on.
Thank goodness. I went to Bath because I didn't have. I was in London.
Jane Austen town.
Yeah. No, I went.
Well,
I was in London
sort
and
of.
I was, visiting a friend, but then she couldn't. She was busy, so she couldn't go with me. And I said, I'm gonna just go to Bath because I'd always wanted to go. So I booked the train ticket. I went to Paddington Station, which I love those books as well. So it's just this whole literary thing. So booked the train to Paddington Station. Took like an hour and a half to like get to Bath.
Yeah.
And basically walked up and down and I like researched like where to eat. And I found this, where to have tea in Bath.
Oh, yes.
So it was so cute. It was this place called Bayes Vintage Tea Room. But it was decked out like 1940s wartime in England, kind of. So all the women were wearing like the Rosie the Riveter kind of headscarves with like the red lipstick. And the tea was great. Like the cakes were fantastic, the scones. And so I'm sitting by myself having like my little, I want to get the whole thing. This is the drawback of like traveling alone. You can't get a lot of stuff to try. That's only the drawback. But I had like my scone, my piece of cake, like the little sandwich, just enough for me. And then I look across and see like not just one, but maybe 3 tables of women who must have dragged their sad boyfriends or husbands to have tea with them in Bath. And of course, because I like Jane Austen. I love reading the books and, all of that.
So you went to the
stuff.
Jane Austen Museum there.
Yes, and I discovered that she hated Bath.
Right? Exactly. That's the same thing.
Okay, but it gave her lots of great stuff to write.
Yes.
But to find out that she absolutely hated this place that figures so prominently in like a few of her books, I'm like, oh, okay. So that is interesting. and funny.
And the fact that you get to the house and they're like, hello, welcome to the Jane Austen house. And then 5 minutes into the tour, they're like, which by the way, this isn't actually her house.
Exactly.
Because she lived down the road, but we couldn't buy that house and turn it into a museum. So we got this one and just tried to approximate what it
that
would look
house
like.
would be.
And you're like, okay, so basically, I just paid entrance fee to something that is, has nothing to do with Jane Austen. And then you tell me she hated Bath anyway.
For me, that was the funniest
right?
bit.
And she was only there for like 4 months.
Yeah, but all the characters she wrote that came out of Bath.
Yes, that's true.
Were hilarious and biting and she must have hated it that much. It's just like,
so she built like a complete opposite.
But the nice thing was going to the pump room and going to like
the baths,
the halls where they would have the assembly, and basically you see the height of the room.
Yeah.
Like people moved in that space. So, you're by yourself. And this is also the thing, when you're traveling by yourself, you can choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
Unless you're with people who want to do exactly the same thing for you, then you can kind of decide, okay. So seeing how the assembly rooms were, how the pump room was, then all of that was just so fascinating.
One final story before we go is like before one of my most favorite trips that I took on my own was I had met someone who had a flat in Valencia in Spain.
Cool.
And I was able to use it for a few weeks. I'd never been to Valencia. I hadn't even planned.
Cheers.
I hadn't even planned on going to Valencia. But it was, I thought, why not?
Yeah.
I knew nothing about it at all. And for some reason, I think I had done it on purpose to not really read up about it.
Not even paella?
Not even, no. As in, just things like that, which, there's the Paella Valenciana and all of that.
Exactly.
But other than that, I knew nothing about it. And I was just given the address to the flat. And I knew that it was in the old historic part of town. That's all I knew. I get there. I mean, it was literally in the old historic, but the cars couldn't even get there. I had to walk.
This is pre-Airbnb.
Yes, this was pre-Airbnb. So, yeah, thank you. And pre-Taylor Swift. No, just kidding. No naman. Met Taylor Swift na nun. But it was like, so I go to this flat and I was there for about 2 weeks. And what I loved about it was because it was the old central part of town.
Right.
You could, and I did this every day. So this was before smartphones. Okay. So no smartphones, no GPS.
There were smartphones. I remember.
No, I was still using we were still on the old, like, like Nokia flip phones. It was all just text.
Oh, okay, got it.
There was no like you didn't get the internet yet on your mobile phone. So if you were gonna walk out of your house, you better have checked your map or whatever before you go out, or have a tourist map with you, which I didn't like to do.
I've never reached that. What? Oh, yeah. I can't believe it.
How do you do that? How do you work that?
But what I really like to do was I would walk out every day and just go right. Where am I going to go today?
Nice.
And then be like, I'm going to go left.
Yeah.
And get lost.
Yeah.
Because I somehow just trusted that at some point I was going to end up somewhere that I recognized and find my way back home.
I think I've done that for Paris.
And I always inevitably, or like even that, I had no plan of where am I going to eat.
Yeah.
Ooh, that looks good. And sometimes I didn't know what the food was. There was stuff on the menu and I'm like, what is this? And people barely spoke English.
But you can speak Spanish.
Yes, but like there were things on the menu that even I didn't know.
They
so I'm like, what is this? And I remember I called my cousin in Madrid and I said, what is this thing? And she's like, what?
Do you remember?
It was apparently some form of fish, and my cousin who doesn't like fish had no clue what it was.
But what was it called? Do you remember the name?
I don't remember the name of it now, but it was very good. Because of course, me, challenge.
We cannot order this because she doesn't remember the name.
I was so challenged. I'm like, oh, I don't know what it is. I will order it.
Yes.
Which,
Buti na lang you don't like not eat a lot of stuff. So, I mean, kinds of stuff.
I don't like liver.
Okay.
Which I made the mistake once in Paris of ordering a plate that I thought stand the menu. I saw the plate going to the person in the next table, and I just pointed and I said, "Oh, I want that one,"
because
Mistake.
it looked
because I thought